Ah, RPG Maker. A tool both convenient and easily accessible for aspiring game developers, but also somewhat looked down upon due to its products being a bit of a mixed bag, ranging from excellent to why did they even bother investing time into any of this. Overall, I'm a big fan of this thing though. I think it's dope as hell that anyone with a basic understanding of technology can make their game creating dreams and ideas a reality. With a tool that has such a low entrance barrier that even I understand how most of it works. And I don't know anything about anything technology related. So that says a whole lot. The flip side of such a low entrance barrier is of course the inability to filter out the bad eggs and internet trolls, admittedly making it a must rather than a choice to double check reviews, gameplay footage and whatnot, to see if a game's worth your time. Then again, I'd say I look at games through a more positive filter than the average entitled Joe Schmo nitpicking in his mom's basement gamer asshole. Not every game can be good, but every game, even this abomination, has something good in them. To me, it's all about intention, ideas and creativity. If I can see and to an extent fuck with the proverbial vision, I don't place a whole lot of value on whether its execution has flaws or not. And Cursed Mansion is a perfect example of just that. Cursed Mansion is a 2D horror adventure game in which you take on the role of Girl, who's actually called Rose, but is still shown as Girl even after the name reveal. Girl is just taking a stroll through a forest, when suddenly a storm whips up and almost strikes her with lightning. Afraid of the storm hitting the 0.001% chance of hitting her, Girl panics and wants to get home ASAP. Conveniently enough, there's a totally not suspicious shortcut right next to her, taking her to a totally not suspicious mansion, where she decides to seek shelter. Upon entering, the door slams shut and traps her inside the mansion. Who would have seen that coming? Yep. The mansion is cursed to the brim and filled with spooky ghosts looking to drink her blood. Knowing she can't escape, Girl's only way out of this hellhole is to somehow lift the curse resting on the mansion and fend off anything spooky trying to annihilate her in the process of doing so. Lifting the curse is done by steering Girl's cute 2D model through this massive mansion, interacting with every nook and cranny in the search of clues and key items, mixed with the occasional puzzle like helping her out with her dance moves or mimicking piano keys, that make for a nice change of pace in between staring at
plants.
Generally though, it's a spooky exploration type of game. A knight's armor, standing in the hallway, collapsed upon return. An up for grabs piggy bank, life-threatening if you get too close. Being late for dinner resulting in much more than angry faces. Hell, you can't even be certain if you're the good girl in any of this. The game genuinely does a good job at being creepy. From the scenery messing with you to death being just a single misstep away, to the evil corrupted ghost attempting to kill you upon entering any area. That flashing red image of said corrupted ghost is just one of the many visual highlights this game has to offer. In fact, the entire sum of visuals is the highlight of the game. I'll admit, I have a bit of a weak spot for these types of 2D aesthetics, regardless of if it's applied well or not. But this game truly is a vibe. Everything, everywhere, is dark and gloomy, candles often being the only source of light. A clock can be faintly heard ticking in the distance, either accompanied by some eerie tunes, or complete silence. You then wander around the mansion, entering its many rooms in search of answers. Rooms with clean as fuck interiors. While the choice of assets is a great fit for the atmosphere they were going for, the design of the interiors made with them cannot be understated. The library with its sheets of papers, bookshelves, books on demonic rituals, and letters to reach all of it. The kitchen with its pots, pans, ingredients, cutting boards, oven, and anything kitcheny. The numerous bedrooms with authentic layouts. Teddy bears on shelves, diaries on desks, chairs to sit on, beds to lay on. The choice and placements of these assets do a solid job of conveying the feeling of wandering around in an abandoned, spooky mansion. Throughout the game you're able to potentially find 3 different dresses to wear, doing what I always advocate for when it comes to outfits, aka changing girls' 2D appearance, but more importantly, her menu and cutscene appearance. The character models and backdrops in these cutscenes all appear to be hand-drawn, and very well hand-drawn at that. Them things look absolutely gorgeous, and make the game worth seeing through to the very end on their own. Not that the gameplay isn't per se, but there's definitely a few ifs, ands, and buts about it. The presentation is solid. The vision is most definitely there. But yeah, the execution is a little flawed. It mostly boils down to a scavenger hunt to scavenge keys to open doors or gather items required for performing a ghost repelling ritual. To me, this is perfectly fine game design to facilitate the environments and evil ghosts in their spooky scary business, as well as giving the player a reason to wander around the mansion. The jump scares and the sheer amount of shit to inspect keeps things rather interesting, and gradually learning about the history of the mansion and its corrupted ghosts was really cool. The mansion's layout seemingly has quite a bit of thought behind it as well, as I found it rather easy to remember and navigate through it all, with or without the floor maps you obtain throughout the playthrough. It all just makes sense. The big dining room in the middle, bathrooms in the back, bedrooms on the side. It resembles a mansion's IRL layout very well, and in combination with its authentic layout, I never found myself close to getting lost. Not even when the environments would undergo slight changes after certain story events, as this question mark icon makes it very clear what you can interact with to navigate your way through things, making the environmental changes nothing but refreshing and exciting. Not to mention collecting deaths by making a misstep anyway, becoming a little minigame in and of itself, as each and every unique death has its own unique death screen. I really like seeing neat little details like that. But yeah, shit ain't perfect. And I'm not even trying to talk down on an Indonesian game developer ever so slightly fluffing the English translation. If anything, a sentence like,
I mean it as it is. Someone make you enter this place.
Made me chuckle. However, there's definitely room for improvement to be found elsewhere. For starters, there's Girl's Energy Bar. That serves no purpose whatsoever. I mean, aside from the 2 small combat sections. That can be healed up to full by these berries you find along the way anyway. There's the inventory not deleting one-time use keys and such, making for an unnecessarily cluttered inventory. There's the achievements malfunctioning about halfway through, only to work again for the final 3? But okay. Those are nitpicking baby bitch issues. I'm very good at those. It's the story and the puzzles that truly disappoint me. The introductory cutscene of Girl seeking shelter shown as I was introducing the game. It's literally all there is to it. Just a random storm and girl seeking shelter in a sussy mansion. Rather than just going home like a normal human being. That lackluster intro sets the precedent for the rest of the game. The cutscenes, while cool, often feel detached from one another, failing to build a cohesive storyline. You meet characters like this friendly blue helper ghost and this random ass lady that's been trapped in a mansion for an eternity. But who they are and what their motives are remains a "Ooh, I really can't tell you!" Ooh! And in the case of the human lady, is never explained at all. You just roam around the mansion opening up random rooms with random keys, while the blue ghost occasionally saves girl from death, and watch a handful of cutscenes of ghosts doing ghost stuff. Until you meet the lady that conveniently knows how to perform a life-saving ritual. The developers probably didn't know how to steer the story towards the intended ending, and thus they just made up some bullshit like bloody footsteps chasing you and killer ghosts cornering you, to fill up the void prior to the climax. The puzzles on the other end initially weren't even an issue to me. Sure, pressing a few buttons to dance or play piano and moving a few objects was
a piss easy, okay?
But at least it was something different than opening up closets to find rusty knives for about 4 hours. This all changed upon reaching the closing section of the game. A closing section that changed my entire stance on the game as a whole. If you were to pick this up, I'd highly advise you to grab this guide after reaching the first ending, because everything after that is fucking magnificent. Following this guide, you reach a whole new section of the map where the game will slowly reveal the blue ghost connection to Girl and the tragedy that caused her to become a ghost in the first place. This story is told through touching these crystals, some present upon arrival, some unlockable through the best puzzles in the game, by a long shot. Filling up and emptying chalices into other chalices to meet a certain amount of liters in all of them, steering a ball of light towards an angle using these mirrors, lighting the correct torch and pressing the correct pressure plate by understanding and solving a riddle. These puzzles are far more fleshed out and even somewhat challenging compared to pressing an arrow key without any sort of pressure in the quote-unquote normal route. Each and every crystal then slowly feeds you additional information about the situation until it all makes sense, culminating into two different emotionally loaded endings that left me satisfied in both the writing and the visual department. Like, just look at this, man. This looks really good. Even though this section includes some random coded guide that gives you the tools to unlock the endings, that's never properly introduced before disappearing, the story and the puzzles are at their absolute best here. And that's exactly why it disappoints me. Cursed Mansion is living proof RPG Maker games can be legit. It blends a scavenger hunt with spooky ghost and environmental jump scares, scenery changes, corrupted ghost lore, and a plethora of unique death sequences well enough to make for a fun 2D horror adventure RPG that never becomes a bore actually. Even less so when you take into consideration the eerie atmosphere, excellent 2D visuals and environmental design, and the gorgeous hand-drawn models and cutscenes. The undisputed highlight of this game to me. I enjoyed my time with this game. I just think it could have been so much better. The minor issues, the story, the puzzles. I hate dragging an indie developer's hard work through the mud like this. But it's just how I feel about things, okay? Fix the minor issues, get some plot and character development going, throw some endgame level puzzles in there over the simple button pressers, and this game goes from okay to just neat. Not groundbreaking, not the best game you'll ever play, but just neat. And for about $4, that would be more than enough for me. The casebook of Arne, funnily enough, also largely takes place inside of a mansion, but is far from the spooky ghost adventure that is the Cursed Mansion. No, it's a cute little game about vampires and murder mystery solving, mixing humor, goofiness, existential crisis and minigames to make for a wildly interesting RPG Maker adventure. An adventure that starts with a young noble lady named Lynn Reinweis paying homage to her deceased mother, who passed away several years ago. A tragedy with substantial impact on the noble's mansion with its butlers and maids, but more importantly, on her husband and Lynn's father, Klaus. He's never really been able to accept her death and has slowly but surely been slipping into insanity. And thus he sees no wrong in going out late at night amongst the rumors of people getting murdered left and right. And yeah, he's murdered. But actually isn't? But actually is. Lynn witnessed the whole thing because she saw him go out and tailed him to the crime scene, but became the next target in doing so. She is however saved from the evil culprit by a magical force, teleporting her to the alternate world of Lugenberg, where she meets the evil king of the vampires out of a movie she's obsessed with, and hires him to solve her father's murder case in exchange for sucking her blood, which she gets far too excited over. In all honesty, the story's a tad more complicated than just that, but all you gotta remember is father is murdered, after which Lynn somehow ends up joining forces with an evil vampire king from another world that she knows from a movie, to crack the murder case. Contrary to what one might expect from an RPG Maker game, I'd almost go as far as calling this a visual novel. Sure, you get to switch between playing as Lynn and Arne, partake in funky minigames and fight Arne's inner demons and such, but it mostly comes down to what one could label a cutscene.
Hell.
And that's gotta be a thing, you know? You ain't gonna get action-packed gameplay from this one. It most definitely is my type of thing though. I like me a story-driven adventure. Granted, this game isn't exactly a Shakespeare-like masterpiece or anything. In fact, the story is all over the place with its otherworldly Lugenberg shenanigans and sudden plot twists slowly but surely revealing the darkness underneath the surface, the butler's, maids and guards' deepest secrets, and most importantly, the truth behind the murder. It's all over the place, but never loses its focus on the main objective. A coordinated mess, so to speak. The unpredictability of events kept things exciting, while never making it too difficult to understand what was going on. The writing all throughout does a great job at tying the story together and building interesting characters to care about. Between Lynn having an existential crisis when everything goes to shit, Bernd the guard blaming everyone but himself for the murder, and Arne's right hand and werewolf that's only able to live in mirrors, Zisha, being a real-life internet troll. The story has found a healthy balance alternating the more serious and the funny haha type of moments to make for an adorable murder mystery adventure. Yeah, there's a killer on the loose. Yeah, there's forced prostitution. Yeah, there's a body with its head chopped off. But everything about this game is just adorable. I mean, just look at these skill set cards used to introduce the characters, highlighting some absurd stuff like the clumsy maid breaking tripping records and Lynn's father's total insanity. They gave the butler a 5-star forehead. That's so foul. And then there's the classic anime intro that goes way too hard for no reason. shit might be made on a budget, but goes pretty hard in general, honestly. The aesthetic might not be as airy and atmospheric as Aikir's mention, and there's far less attention to detail when it comes to its assets and world building. Its visual effects and art style give the game a whole lot of personality. Though nothing too crazy, I'm digging these adorable character portraits and their different expressions, and the full-fledged drone cutscenes are rather stylish. Digging the choice of music about as much, as they've decided to go with a pretty wide variety, ranging from to the tracks cut off rather abruptly at times and aren't the most entrancing shit you've ever heard, but fit their respective scenes well enough to elevate the cutscenes and never overstay their welcome. Where the game truly excels is its additional SFX, adding things like bloody fingerprints on the screen, a web of blood to reveal sussy baka areas, and whole-ass overlays for crime scene investigations. It's effects and animations like those that make it stand out against other RPG Maker games, not to mention its execution looking clean as hell too. My favorite thing about these is the authentic HUD and UI for every single minigame. They went out of their way to make every single one memorable, with stuff like custom backgrounds, filters, artwork, text, whole new areas meant for just that one minigame, and they even give you a side-scroller perspective for one of them. I like seeing game developers go the extra mile like that, rather than puzzles taking place in-game, a la Ker's mention. A very smart move to give them that distinctive feel as well. As that's pretty much all the game there is to play. To reiterate, this is not a game for gamers. This is a game for Giga Chat story enjoyers. It's a whole lot of story building and character development interspersed with sporadic moments of walking from one room to another. The game's got a massive anti-idiot mechanism built in as well, showing you what to do at all times in the top right corner. A pink arrow showing you where to go and what to interact with, and alternative routes and rooms resulting in the
Yeah, let's not do this, you dumb fuck.
idiot-proof message. Sure, sometimes you get to turn Arne into a bat and fly somewhere, or have Arne turn into spooky mist to prevent people from noticing his presence on a timing. But yeah, it's mostly just walking from story event to story event. Sure, there are objects to interact with in the area, and even magazines and clues from said objects or certain story events to obtain, to then read about in the notebook menu. But the minigames are truly the only thing I'd label as gameplay. And they're really cool. A walk in the park, but really cool nonetheless. I'm a big fan of the ideas presented here, making sure none of the minigames leaves a similar impression on the player. Whether it's tailing Klaus while staying out of his field of view, dodging Baron's accusations by literally dodging the words falling down, or fighting Arne's inner demons by placing a trap on the exact spot its invincibility briefly wears off. Shit's entertaining as fuck, honestly. Even the more subtle puzzles like getting some sort of a high score by finishing Ziz's puns to entertain him, or poking through a mate's alibi by clicking pieces of information in the correct order, served as nice breathers in between the text-heavy segments to keep the player awake. The absolute funniest thing about these are the random German word pop-ups during and after the game.
Richtig. Ausgezeichnet. Perfekt.
Hell, the entire game being German-centered is pretty fucking funny. Like, I've tried to do my research on this, and I for the love of me can't figure out why a Japanese game developer and publisher made and distributed a Germanish game. As far as I'm concerned, they were just like, so, how about those Germans, eh? And then made the world its characters and minigame pop-ups. Hella German. Adds a bit of extra oomph to the game though, as do the minigames themselves. Without these, the game would have truly been a walk from A to B to then conversate for 10 minutes type of game. But the art style and ideas presented in them definitely give the game some extra color. They suffer from the same lack of difficulty as the ones in Curse mentioned, but with the game's story-centered game design, it didn't bother me as much. That being said, a bit of an extra challenge wouldn't have hurt though. It's what makes IE Professor Layton games as memorable as they are. Overall though, I fuck with the Casebook of Arne. They took the idea of a visual novel and did an excellent job at making it work in an RPG Maker game, adding some unique twists and turns when it comes to the plot and the addition of funky minigames. Combine that with decent character development, a healthy serious funny balance, and an appealing audio-visual design, especially for RPG Maker standards, and you got yourselves an RPG Maker game I'd definitely recommend to anyone for the small loan of €8. 2 RPG Maker games I'd recommend, actually. Look, I won't beat around the bush, okay? These games are obviously made on a budget. It is to be expected with a tool as easily accessible as RPG Maker. And thus expecting a world-class game that can compete with the best of the best is simply unrealistic. However, both games I've talked about today have proved RPG Maker can bring about some good shit. And for the price of an apple and a pear, they've given me respectively 4 and 6 hours of gameplay, in which I've never gotten close to feeling bored. While the execution of the ideas is admittedly flawed and suboptimal, I can see the vision. A vision I can get behind. And I'm beyond grateful RPG Maker is as accessible as it is to materialize said vision. If it means enabling more aspiring game developers to create at the cost of a bunch of morons creating shovelware, that's a trade-off I'll gladly take. It enabled these new developers to create 2 enjoyable games to now build upon, and I think that's just really, really cool. Who knows the heights they'll reach from here on out. So yeah, fuck the RPG Maker haters, is what I'm trying to say. This shit is dope as hell. You know what? Forget everything I said.